that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another show. You're now listening to Season 8 of Debate Talk Free Radio. I'm your host, Sal Showtime. We are back with another classic show for you guys. Well, once again, Debate Talk for You is live on the airwaves from Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate the family out there that's tuning in via Blog Talk Radio, via social media. And once again, like I always say, if you're in a Facebook group or you're listening to the show, share it on your personal page. Let people know that Debate Talk for You is live and on the air. And this is the show where you, the people, can actually chime in with your questions and your comments. All down in that number, 319-527-6239. Today's show is entitled Exploring the Hebrew Roots Movements. Once again, today's show is entitled Exploring the Hebrew Roots Movement. You know, I was just going on YouTube and, I always try to seek out new special guests and check out new topics, new content, things that's going on in the community. And I came across the Hebrew Roots Movement, and I came across one particular person, and she's here right here on Debate Talk Radio, along with some friends of hers. And we're going to definitely speak about the Hebrew Roots Movement. Also have a co-host here with me. Let me introduce my co-host. This is Shan-T. Welcome to the show.
Shalom, Sal. Shalom, Debate Talk to You. I am delighted, humbled, and honored through the Most High Yahweh to be able to co-host today, exploring the Hebrew Roots Movement. I'm definitely excited to meet the sister and her friends, talk a little bit, and interested in what the audience has to question or comment on. Shalom.
All right, shalom. We appreciate you. Before you move forward, let the people know, because you said you had some experience in regards to the Hebrew Roots Movement. Let them know about your background with the Hebrew Roots Movement.
All right. So my background with the Hebrew Roots Movement is that's one of the first movements I ran across when I came to social media through the Facebook. I actually had a Facebook for a business thing, but as the months went by, I started researching the Bible back in like 2012. I started reading the Bible 2011, 2012. I started to do some research, and my husband was like, "Go online, Shan-T, to see if you can start some more answers or whatnot." Some things were not lining up, and between the year 2012, 2013, I started meeting a few people on the Facebook, and came across some people who were letting me know why couldn't I find a church. I'm still trying to find a church that honored the Sabbath and did not adhere to the secular holidays. And they were like, you got to search for something that's called Messianic. And I came across Messenger of the Name. And then I came across the Hebrew Roots Movement. I came across 119 Ministries, came across Passion for Truth, Hebrew Roots Network, Rico Cortez, and a few others. And a lot of their teaching is very profound. They've been covering a whole lot of things. Eddie Chumney. Just from the feast days and what those are about, until I was looking also at like the temple, the temple in the wilderness, things of that nature. And for the first couple of years, before I even knew what a Hebrew Israelite was, I ran into the Hebrew Roots Movement. They seemed to have a great understanding of what I was seeking when I came across, reading the scripture, Old Testament and New Testament, all the way through for the first time in my life at 32 years old. So before I ran into, Hebrew Israelite videos, I ran into Hebrew Roots and, came across some things that I'm going to ask the guests about and talk with the guests about. So I am very thankful for the Hebrew Roots movement. It caught a lot of flack. It still does catch a lot of flack, but it catches the flack because its momentum is gaining more ground every day. I mean, it's helping to take people in with open arms, even though there might be, some hurt and pain still from people who come in, and we understand that part. The thing is, once you stay in it and stay grounded, you kind of open up and learn to be loving, learn to be compassionate. So that's my experience with the Hebrew Roots movement, Sal. So yeah.
All right, family. Once again, topic of the day: exploring the Hebrew Roots movement. Everybody knows on Debate Talk for you, we invite anybody to dialogue and debate, roundtable discussions. We have different segments on the platform. But today, like I said, people can call in. The number is 319-527-6239. Everybody knows the rules. Once you call in, there's no foul language. You got to keep it clean, keep it professional. We have people listening with the kids and even the elderly. But let me introduce the special guest. My first special guest, I came across her channel, Vegas Traci. I'm going to leave that link in the description box. Here she is. This is Traci. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Sal. How's it going? Shalom to everybody. Thank you for having me on. It's kind of a great experience for me. My first experience with any type of live communication, so I'm a little nervous, but I'll try and keep it together for y'all. It's interesting that Shan-T said that she found the Hebrew roots first. I actually found the Hebrew Israelites first and ended up in Hebrew roots. So I was actually, and I think, Sal, that as we talk tonight, you're gonna find that I differ a little bit from some of my Hebrew roots friends in some of my understanding because I came in from the other end. So that's just, you tell me where you want to go with this and we'll go.
Yeah, no problem. And we're just going to introduce everybody first, and after that we're going to, ask a few questions. All right, so
All right.
Let me introduce my next special guest. This is Carrie. Welcome to the show.
Shalom, shalom.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right. Give us a brief bio about yourself real quick. Brief bio.
Okay, when I was born, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. So we did that till I was about 5. And then it was kind of, nothing. No church. I didn't come out of the church. But about 2 years ago, I started really worrying about my salvation. And the whole, I was on Twitter, and there was the Trump and Hillary thing, and I was so upset about Hillary winning and just it being really bad here, so I started really worrying about my salvation. And then I watched a YouTube channel that I used to watch all the time, and they had on Steve Berkson, and he started talking about the Torah. And he said, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to be all right when the crap hits the fan. And every fiber of my being said, this is what I've been looking for. I've been listening to 2 Christian ministers on YouTube every Sunday. They couldn't answer my questions, am I saved, am I not saved, am I going to hell? And then when I found Steve, which is my rabbi, he's Messianic, he is Jewish, and I just knew that I had found what I was looking for. And I'd listen to all the stuff on YouTube that would freak me out and scare me, and since I found Torah, it doesn't bother me, because I know that if I'm walking out this walk with integrity and doing it with all my heart and being in my might, that he's going to take care of me, that Hashem will watch over me. And I've been here for it'll be almost 2 years in August that I've been Torah observant, and I've mikvahed and been a part of MTOI, which is Messick Torah Observant Israel, led by Steve Berkson.
All right.
That's
Well,
my
we
story.
appreciate you for coming on the panel. We appreciate you being here live, right here on the Debate Talk Radio. Well, of course, we're going to ask you more questions as we go along. But let's introduce our final special guest, Rebecca. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shalom. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this.
There you go.
So I was actually raised atheist my whole entire life. For whatever reason, I had a calling upon my life 8 years ago. In that walk, I was set on fire. I was in church nonstop. I was in about 5 Bible studies a week. I was going out and witnessing every single day almost. I mean, I was on fire. And when I was in church, I always noticed that things that my pastor would say just never added up. Things I was reading never added up. No one could ever answer questions that I had. I'd either get pushed away or they just would act like they didn't have an answer to my questions. Until I finally met my now husband, Isaac, and I like to tell everybody I'm Rebecca and he's Isaac, just like the Bible. I think that's so cute. But anyways, when I met him, his mom one night, her and I started talking. It was like the first big talk we ever had. And 4 hours later, she's the one who pretty much opened my eyes to Torah. I told her all these questions I had. I said, no one's ever been able to answer these questions. And so I started telling her them. She started answering them right away. And from then on, all the puzzle pieces just started to fit into place. And that's when she sent me over the video Truth or Tradition by Jim Staley. And after sitting there and watching that video, I just remember bawling my eyes out like a baby. How did I ever worship my God like that, And I remember the very next day going in my closet and taking out all of my holiday stuff and throwing it straight into the trash. Oh, man. So, and ever since then, I just have been set on fire. Then I met Traci. Actually, I think Traci was my very first friend that I met on Facebook when I started to seek the truth. And started talking to her, and then I was led to many, many, many other people on Facebook who were all, in the Hebrew Roots movement and stuff. And so ever since then, I mean, I would say that I was set on fire back in the day when I had my eyes, open to Christ 8 years ago, but that doesn't even compare to the fire that I have set in me now that I know the truth, and now that scriptures make so much more sense to me than it did back then. Like what does the righteous mean, or, the laws and this and that and the other. Like it all makes so much more sense, and all the puzzle pieces finally fit perfectly together. So I love it, and I'm so excited about it. So I'm just, I don't know what else to say, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, hey, we appreciate you being here. We like the excitement. There you go. Once again, family, the number is 319-527-6239. I see we have more and more people calling into the show. We appreciate you for checking out the Debate Talk Radio. I'm supposed to be having a special guest caller calling in. They may, they're kind of busy. So if you're out there, there's a lot of callers out there. If you're out there, press number 1, and I'll bring you in the conversation. But I'll reveal that special guest caller if he doesn't get a chance to call in. Hopefully he does, though. But let's get this thing started. Shan-T, I'm going to let you, start off with a few questions. Shan-T, go ahead.
All right. Shalom to you all. Welcome to this platform. You are home here. Sal is a great person. I praise Yahweh for Sal opening this up. And, it's amazing to hear your stories. It sounds similar to a lot of ours, especially mine. Hearing Carrie and hearing Rebecca, very profound testimonies. Sister Traci, can you give us a little more background of how you came into
Sure. Well, I don't have a religious background at all. I was brought up in a pretty secular home with, no observance at all. But my brother started going to church when he was around 17 years old, and he started dragging me along with him. And so I kind of went to church a little bit as a teenager. I was very interested in prophecy. Even as a young child, I was very intrigued by the book of Revelation and the end times. And I remember I would sit up and talk with my friends till the wee hours of the night talking about what was going to happen in the end and all of this stuff. I didn't know nothing back then, but I had a lot of talking to do. But I walked pretty much my whole life without God. I walked a very tormented life, you might say. A lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of promiscuity. And then I had my son when I was 24 years old, so I kind of straightened up in that respect, but still walked without God. I married my husband, who was brought up Jewish, but had a very, very hardcore disdain for anything that had to do with religion. He believed that there was, you know, quote unquote, the higher power, but he didn't know what that was, and he didn't find that in his synagogue when he was a kid either. So it was 2010 when everything in my life just started falling apart. My marriage, my husband and I were in separate rooms. We were living separate lives. My kids were constantly fighting with each other, and my son, my oldest son, who's autistic, would come in my room and just talk about how he wanted to kill himself, and all of these things were happening, and I was just like, everything was so wrong, and I just instinctually knew that if I wanted to get my life together, that I had to have God in it. So working on the knowledge that I had, I assumed that I had to go to church to find him. So I set out to find a church, and I knew I didn't want to be in a church that just didn't have any life in it. So I ended up in a hyper grace charismatic church. And you know, I don't tend to bash on his ministry that much, even though I know he was completely apostate. But he did lead me to actually question what was happening in that church. So he kept saying, you know, don't take my word for it. Read your Bible, read your Bible. So I started reading the Bible, and I was kind of hesitant to do it because every time I had ever tried to read the Bible, I could never get past creation. And I would just be like, I just don't get this stuff. And I would throw the Bible to the side. And for some reason, the words just basically jumped off the page at me this time. And I really started to sink into the word, and I was just amazed by it. I was just blown away by it. And I remember calling my sister at one point, and she was so happy that I was going to church and getting saved and all that stuff. And I told her, I was like, oh my gosh, did you know how old people were living in the Bible, and there was giants in the did you know about that? Did you know about this stuff? And my sister, I'll never forget this. This started everything. My sister said, what are you reading? And I said, I'm reading the Bible. And she said, well, what book are you in? And I said, now I'm in Exodus, but I was in Genesis. I've got through Genesis. I'm going into Exodus now. And she's like, well, what are you reading that for? And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, you know, normally Christians, we read the New Testament. That Old Testament's for the Jewish people. And I was like, but that's the front of the book. And I just remember that shock about her statement started everything. And then as I started to go through the book of Exodus and I started reading the commandments, I was just like, wait a minute. I kept the words like forever and everlasting kept smacking me in the face. And I'm like, why aren't we doing this stuff? Mm-hmm. And I kept going through it, and I was really involved at my church at the time. And but it was like dry bones. There was nothing there. I wasn't getting anything out of it. But I was increasing my thirst for the Word. And so I read every day, constantly. It's all I did was listen to the Bible or read the Bible. And I got about up to 2 Kings, and then I started going back and forth through the Old and the New Testament. I just kind of started hopping around, and I got in this habit of just opening the Bible to wherever it was and starting to read. And I'll never forget the day that I started reading in, I think it's 2 Corinthians. I'm really bad with chapter and verse, just so you know. I'm going to put that out there right now. but I think it's 2 Corinthians when Paul is talking about the church, and I was just like, this is not what my church looks like. There was a lot of hypocrisy at my church. The pastor, it was really kind of creepy looking back at it now, but the pastor would always talk about his quote-unquote hot wife in his sermons, and always playing his wife up, and his wife would run around in tight, skinny jeans with 6-inch platform heels on and red lips and low-cut tops, and I was just like, as fast as I was drawn into the church, I was drawn out of the church. And I remember just leaving the church being so frustrated and just so disillusioned. And why is the church not doing this stuff? And so I really started looking into other faiths. I started looking into Jehovah's Witnesses. I started looking into Seventh-day Adventists because I'm trying to find that sect, because right now what was working the hardest on me was the Sabbath. Okay, I had already come to grips with Christmas, thanks to Pastor Dowell. I got rid of the Christmas toot sweet. My family gave it up, no problem, but I was really struggling with the Sabbath. So I was trying to find a Sabbath-keeping congregation. And so I was looking at all of these different faiths, and okay, but these people keep the Sabbath, but they still don't eat kosher, and these people do this, but they don't do that. So I was just kind of going back and forth. And then I think it was what really solidified my Torah keeping was a Sabbath debate between Chris Rosenborough and Jim Staley. And it was so strong. I was just like, okay, who is this guy? I need to listen to him more. And so I found Passion for Truth Ministries. And that's when everything just went crazy. And by this time, I'm about 2 years into my faith. And I saw the teaching of his called Identity Crisis. And it wasn't the long one that was like 2.5 hours. It was a simple 1-hour message. It was an older one. And it was my fall to my knees moment, because here I was struggling so much trying to figure out all of this stuff. And there's a point in the teaching where he says, in case you haven't realized it yet, you are Israel. And I just started crying. I was so relieved, and I felt like every piece of the puzzle that was just laying out on the table just like scurried together and put itself together into this beautiful picture. And I was just amazed at what I had found. And I just wanted to, of course, I wanted to run out and share it with everybody. And apparently nobody wants to hear that message. So I'm now 7 years into this, obviously, and so I'm still trying to get people to hear the message, and that's just basically my story. But I will tell you that falling into Torah and keeping the feast days and keeping the Sabbath has restored my home. It's restored my children. It's restored my marriage, and I've never had such peace in my life. This is what people don't understand, is there is a peace that comes with this. It goes beyond just saying, oh, I have Christ and I'm at peace. No, that's a facade. And I'm telling you the truth. I walked that road of Christianity, and there is no healing power there. It's just not there, not for me. I'm not going to say it's not there for somebody else, but it's not there for me. And I needed to have the whole thing. I needed to have the whole kit and caboodle. I needed the truth of the Torah, and I needed the blood of my Messiah to make me whole. And so that's where I am now. So with that, I yield.
Hallelujah. That's praise to Yahweh right there. I share a lot of your testimony and your sentiments, and there was a couple of things you said that were very profound, and that is when you come across the teachings, or when you come across the revelation that what you thought you were into was spot on, you were definitely missing the mark, right? And there's a hurt there. You cried. Like, I went in the bathroom at work and cried. But you start speaking and looking, right? and you speak for fellowship, and you speak for these outlets where you can go and gain more insight. But the thing is, there's your family, your blood relatives that kind of get into arguments with you. But they do see the adjustment in your life. They do see the change in your life. They do see the blessing in your life. They see the overcoming and prevailing and the meaning that your family has gone through. They see that there's true peace. So I always tell people when you're arguing, bickering back and forth, and you say you have the Spirit, then we test the Spirit by the Spirit. Where the Spirit of the Most High is, there's peace, right? So
that's right.
How do you along with your immediate family mend those broken bonds? How do you deal with your extended family when you want to? When they see what's going on with you, you can't say anything unless they come to you. You have to see if they're coming in sincerity, whether they really want to know or whether they want to know. How do you deal with things, dealing with the not coming around during the holidays, or, they see that you have this peace, and they know what you're doing, but they kind of don't want to do what you've been doing, if you're doing your research. How do you deal with that? Let's start with Traci first on that.
Okay, yeah, and I'm going to differ from my sisters here because they actually have a different story than I do. But I give all praise to Yahweh on this one because not only did I come into Torah, but I took my pre-trib raptured daddy who used to go to Calvary Church into Torah. And my mom just kind of goes along to get along. She loves Yahweh, but nothing biblical makes sense to my mom, if that makes any sense. But she doesn't fight with us on anything. She does the feast days with us. She does the Sabbath with my dad. So my brother, who lives here also in Las Vegas, is Torah pursuant. I won't say he's observant yet, but he is Torah pursuant, who also does the feast days with us, and he keeps the Sabbath and so on and so forth. Now, my sister has kind of been the holdout because she was she's more of a charismatic, I guess, and we've invited her. We've been doing the feast days now for 3 years. We've invited her time after time after time. She'll have something to do, but this was her first year that she actually came and did the Passover with us. So praise Yah for that. And then I have a brother, an older brother, who I don't even speak with anymore. He walked away from the faith. He walked away from sanity, basically. But so I don't really even know if he knows what we do. So I'm sure he'd tell me it was wrong, though, because he was very steeped in the Pentecostal church. So, but that's just kind of my testimony there. I've shared the truth with my friends, and I think that's the most disappointing because I do have friends who will listen to me and they'll hear me out, but they just don't seem to care. They don't think they have to do that. And they're perfectly fine sitting, listening to their dispensational message at the Calvary Church. So that's a little disappointing. But you know what? I'll take my victories where I get them. You know what I'm saying? And give all the glory to the Most High.
Right on. Sister Carrie?
Yep.
How do you deal with what you do being so different? It could be different from your extended relatives or your friends. How do they see you, or how do you go about dealing with or remaining that light amongst your extended relatives and friends?
Well, I have 3 kids, but only my youngest, who is getting ready to turn 12, is Torah observant with me. My 2 oldest, which are 18 and 23, they don't believe in God whatsoever. And I've cried and I've begged, and there's really nothing more that I can do. I'm not the one that opens eyes. I can try to be a light, but my parents, other than my mother, who thinks I'm in a cult, they're very respectful of my beliefs. And even my ex, who's the father of my two youngest children, they are respectful. When they come into town for the holidays, because we've only done two, was only our second year, no Christmas. They actually give me a Hanukkah card, even though I don't, do the gifts for Hanukkah. But they have more respect, kind of, than my own mother. They have they've never, as long as I've known them, I was with their son for 17 years. They don't do church, anything. So I'm sure they think that it's totally weird, even though they put up the tree and the Halloween stuff every year. And the only thing he'll say is when I bring something up, well, how do you know yours is right? How do you know what you believe is right? And I said, because that's what the Bible says. That's how I know it's right. But I don't get a lot of flack, and I really don't have friends other than Torah observant friends. I have Traci, and I have my MTOI family. And that's really the only people I talk to. I don't have my school friends that I really talk to anymore because they don't understand this, and it's hard to keep it all out of the conversation, especially when, they're talking about Christmas and doing this and that on Saturday, and I don't know. I have to really only talk to people who believe as I believe, and even though there's tons of messianics out there on Facebook, they don't all believe the same. I tend to be called more Jewish because I do look at what Brother Judah does, because Genesis 49:10 tells us that they were the law, they were given the authority. So because the Bible is very vague on how we're supposed to celebrate a lot of this stuff and do all this stuff. So my rabbi, he stays away from the Talmud a lot. We don't practice Talmud. We don't get into that. But when we're doing the feast, we look at Brother Judah because they were the ones who were given the authority and didn't forget. They weren't cast into dispersion like as much as we were. So I don't have a lot of friends. I mean, really, I talk to Traci and my MTOI friends, and that's really about it. So as long as my family stays the way they are, they don't push anything. My mom, we had a really good conversation on Thanksgiving, but then I heard at Christmas time she turned around and said I was in a cult. But she was the only one who sent me a check at Christmas time and put "for Christmas" right on it. And I was like, why do you do this? And I just deal with it. She's always been judgmental, and I just have to. This is my walk, and only I can walk it. So. And that's about it. I don't really talk to many people.
I definitely understand that isolation sometimes from some people who just don't understand. Sister Rebecca, what about you? How do you deal with, or how have you learned to deal with other people? You've grown up with, or you've they see you go from full-blown atheist to this
right.
person now keeping Sabbath and the feast days and things of that nature. How do you deal with that?
I would say, actually, first off, when I was raised atheist, I wasn't an actual atheist, although that's what my family tried to raise me as. I always had an open mind. I've only been in this walk, though, the Hebrew walk, for only a year, but it has been kind of a lonely one. I have a little bit of both sides, kind of the loneliness and not. My family at first went nuts. I mean, they already thought I was brainwashed and in a cult, and when I just believed in Jesus. And now I got rid of the holidays, and how dare I take away the holidays from their grandchildren? I mean, it was just insane. And I remember having my daughter's birthday party, and my mom got in my face and was screaming at me in front of everyone that I was taking Christmas away from her grandchildren because I have two daughters. And just like Carrie said, I also have an ex. And my ex and his new wife, they are totally fine with what I believe. They are 100% supportive. They are okay with it. But my family, on the other hand, they do not like it whatsoever. And even like just this past Easter, my dad texted me. He said, "Hey, you coming over for Easter?" And I said, "Dad, you know I don't celebrate holidays." And I feel like he kind of does it on purpose just to like see if he can get me riled up. And I said, "Dad, you know I don't do that. We're celebrating Passover." And he goes, "Oh my gosh, are you a Jew?" And I'm like, "We have discussed this so many times. I am not a Jew." And I try to go over and over again and explain to him what this means, but it's like talking to a brick wall, because you cannot try to explain the difference between what the Bible really says and why people automatically say that it's a Jewish thing. You can't explain that to a person who doesn't even believe in the Bible at all. Like, you can't do that. It's like literally talking to a wall, because they're not going to understand what you're talking about. So it's been kind of rough. But now my husband like I said, his mom is the one who actually led me to the Hebrew Roots movement. She does follow this way. So really, besides my husband, who also follows the Hebrew Roots as well, I have him, and I have his mom and his stepdad. So we actually, last Sukkot was our first feast we ever kept. We went down to his mom's farm, and it was just the most amazing time I have ever had. We took our kids with us, and it just was amazing. Like, it was so peaceful. It was definitely an experience I never even experienced, even with just the holidays that I used to celebrate. And it's unexplainable. I can't even explain how amazing it was. And we're actually going to do that again with his family. So it's nice to be able to, since I can't do that with my family, at least I can do it with his family. Really, just his mom and his stepdad, because none of his other relatives walk this way either. So it's kind of a lonely walk, and I've actually lost pretty much all of my friends. They all think I'm weird, and they all think I'm in a cult. But it's okay. I've learned to live with it. I've got my hobbies. I've got my Torah friends on Facebook, and Traci, she's one of my best friends. I talk to her almost every single day. And like I said, she was the first person I really met on Facebook, and her and I just clicked right away. And so really, besides her and my husband and his mom and stepdad, that's pretty much all I have in my life. And it's not like my parents exiled me. Like, they do not want to have anything to do with me. It's not even like that. My parents love me. They love me, and my sisters love me too, but they just don't understand. They just don't understand why I believe this or anything like that. And I have had, I've had them question it sometimes. They'll bring it up. I don't ever force it upon them or even bring it up unless they do. And I have had them, ask me questions, and I'll sit there and try to talk to them. I'll get out my Bible and say, well, this is this, or whatever they want to know. Still just, whatever, I want to go party, or that's just how they live their life. So whatever makes them happy, fine. I'm definitely not going to push it on them. So, but yeah, that's pretty much about it for me.
All right, thank you for that. I heard a lot of, you're in a cult.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I got too. I got the whole argument thing, and it's the spirit that draws. and a lot of our people don't understand. It's the Spirit that's drawing and calling us at different times and using different situations in our life to call us. So, you know, I want to get into something about the history of Hebrew roots. You know, do you guys like that term? I listen to also a lot of Messianic Jewish people, a lot of rabbis who are into Messianic Judaism. I learned a lot, like from Rabbi Isaac Shapiro, and I think his name is Rabbi Yehezkel. What is he, from Kehilat Melech Ministries? You know, what's the Hebrew? What's the history of Hebrew roots? Because like, I'll tell you this: as the Hebrew roots, you're like in the middle of Christianity or first century AD Christianity is what I like to call it. You're in the middle of that, and you're in the middle of that, and your Messianic Jewish brothers and sisters, you know, and a lot of the family, like you guys said, they think you stop believing in Jesus Yeshua, right? They think you stop believing, but with me, you start understanding more of why he's your Messiah. You know, you start believing more and understanding more of why he came the first time and that he fits. You know, so what's your recollection of the history of the Hebrew roots movement? We can start with Traci.
Well, I would be lying if I said that I love the title Hebrew Roots Christian, because, I mean, we've all been around the block. We know that the name Hebrew Roots has been dragged through the mud on more than one occasion. We have our fair share of bad teachers in this movement. We have people who are leading people straight into Judaism, full-on Judaism. And then we have the more of the lukewarm ones. And then we have those who are of the Melchizedekian type of ideology, where they only believe in the Book of the Covenant and not the entire law. So we have all of these different factions within the Hebrew roots. So it's very hard to pinpoint what a person believes simply based on them saying, I'm a Hebrew roots Christian. There's a lot of things that are not important to me as a Hebrew roots that are incredibly important to other people, such as the pronunciation of the name. I am not one of those people who will bicker and fight over the pronunciation of the name. I am not the type of person who will sit there and bicker and fight over calendars and feast days and Sabbath days and all. I won't sit there and bicker and fight. And in a lot of ways, I'm like Carrie in that respect. When I came into this, I wasn't looking to do it my own way. I read very clearly in the Bible that authority was given to Judah. So when it comes to feast days, Sabbath days, and so on and so forth, I look to Judah to see, when am I supposed to do it? Where am I supposed to do it? How am I supposed to do it? Boom, done. I don't sit there and get bogged down with all of these different calendars, sliver, conjunction, all of it. I just can't. I don't have time for it, honestly, because a lot of it's based on books that are not the Bible. So I don't even get into that. Not that those books are not valid or have validity at all, but I use the Bible as my sole source of information. So I love... See, and this is what I wanted to say, is Hebrew Roots is not a denomination of Christianity, in my opinion. Right. It is not like Baptist, Methodist, Jehovah's. It's not a denomination of Christianity. And I think that that's a big problem, because what they do is they just say, oh, all Hebrew Roots Christians are the same. No, just like Christianity, we have different factions within that Hebrew roots understanding. And I tend to gravitate more to calling myself just a Torah observant believer now, because the name Hebrew roots has been dragged and beat up and bashed against a rock so many times by so many people. So I have a very, very small group of people that I will actually look to for teaching. I, like Carrie, listen to MTOI as one of my teachers, and then I've only got maybe 2 other teachers that I'll listen to on a regular basis because everything is so different from one teacher to another. So I just try to model my life by what I see in the Bible, and I model it by what I heard from Yeshua, not from what I heard from Paul. Not that I don't believe in Paul, but Paul was not my Messiah. And that's where I think a lot of Christians have things wrong, because I've had this conversation with so many people where I'm telling them, well, Yeshua says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Well, Paul says we're free from the law. What is Paul to you? Did Paul die on the cross for you? Did Paul save you from your sin? Did Paul, is Paul your propitiation for your sin? Who is Paul for you? Why are you willing to walk to death for Paul? Do what your Messiah said, So that's just, I just try to model everything after what I read in Yeshua's commission, because I feel like what Yeshua said was for me, and I might also want to add at this point too, somewhere along the line, even though I grew up as a secular person without religion in my life, somewhere along the line, those commandments were taught to me, because I remember all my life living by a certain code. You do this, you don't do that. This is right, this is wrong. So somewhere along the line, on a very subconscious level, those commandments were in my heart already. Now, whether they were put there from somebody in the background talking or Yeshua himself, I don't know. But when I started reading those commandments for the first time in the book of Exodus, every single one of them made sense to me. And I looked at every single one of those commandments and I said, is this something I can do? Yes? Okay, I'm going to do that. And that's how I live my life. It's a very simple thing. This is what it says to do, and I'm going to do that. So I know that kind of went off on a rabbit trail there, but but that's basically where I'll stop.
No, you are fine, and you are actually right on point with what I'm now going to actually take us into my next question. But Sister Carrie, your take on the history of Hebrew roots, what you guys had to deal with, or what I wouldn't say you guys, it's all of us. I don't make a separation. I understand exactly what Traci said. You get into the sacred name. You have people thinking you're all one faction or all believe the same way. Everybody want to paint you with the broad brush. What's your what's your take on the history of Hebrew roots and that term? Because a lot of people want to call it other names like the Hebrew number 2 movement. I'm like, man, that's kind of crazy. Because it's doing some fantastic things with the Father's people. So the term with the cult and people thinking you stop believing in Messiah. What's your take on the Hebrew roots and you personally, the history of it or what you've experienced in it?
I particularly don't like the name Hebrew roots. I guess I would choose messianic more, or really restorative, because what we're doing is restoring what was always supposed to be.
Amen.
But I can't be on Facebook for very long because it's all arguments and debates. I have a number of friends who believe that Paul is a serpent-tongued, whatever they want to call him. They don't believe anything that Paul said. I'm finding more and more Messianics don't believe in a lot of the New Testament books. It's just we are not one out there. That's whatever you just decide to call us. I can't put Christian. I of course I called myself a Christian. I've always believed in God. I've always, even when I was, a Jehovah's Witness, as a child, I prayed probably a lot more then than I do now. and I really need to be in my Bible a lot more than I am, and I'm not good at telling you what it says. But I'm losing my train of thought here. There's just too many people out there that it's so divided, and Yeshua's he's coming for something that's whole. And Hebrew, like Traci used the term Hebrew roots Christian. To me, that's almost an oxymoron. I don't use Jesus and I don't use Christ because those are Greek names, and my Messiah was not Greek. I use Yeshua. I vacillate between using Yahweh and Hashem. My son, he uses Yahweh, and that's fine. Any of the names out there are, 100% the right name, so that's why I switch back to Hashem, because I don't want to be calling something that it's not. And then I have people who tell me, oh, you've got to use the name or he's not, the Bible's telling you to call on his name, and I don't think that's exactly what it means in the Bible to call on his name. I think it's to call as to his character and to walk as he walked. And, the Jews call him Hashem, they'll even go as far as they won't even say Elohim. They'll say Elohim, Yod-Ke, Vav-Ke, because they don't even want to cross that line that could even use his name in vain. But even our actions could be take his name in vain, saying that I'm his child and then doing something that I shouldn't. So I don't know. People get mad. Some little people get mad at me when I put Xgen because I don't use those words. But I don't get mad at somebody who uses the word Jesus. That's all. That's their thing. But it's just something that I'm not going to say. And I kind of don't look at Yeshua and Jesus as the same. Because I think that Christianity has made Jesus a God, and where he says that he only comes to do what his Father says, and I pray in the name of Yeshua, but I pray to Hashem or Yahweh, because they are the one true, Almighty, So I guess that's my take on it.
Thank you, Sister Carrie. Rebecca, your thoughts on this term of Hebrew roots, the history of it, some of the doctrine and people thinking you stop believing in Messiah. What's your take?
To be honest with you, I think Carrie and Traci said it perfectly. I don't think I could say anything better than what they said. And I, too, do not really go by the Hebrew roots. I would either say, Israelite or usually if people ask me, what I am or what I follow, I just say the whole Bible. I follow the whole Bible. If it's in the Bible, I'm going to follow it. If it's not in the Bible, I'm not going to follow it. I don't think it gets more simpler than that. And like Carrie was saying too, sometimes I get so fed up with Facebook because you see such a division, people starting to, especially right now when I just came to following Torah, I was overwhelmed at how many people were starting to fall away from Yeshua as the Messiah and denying him because everyone says the Bible just so much contradicts itself and Paul contradicts himself. And I am one of those people where, you know what, if that's what you're going to say, then I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to fully study this out, and I'm going to prove that Yeshua is in the Torah, and I'm going to prove to you that Paul taught Torah, and I will show you that he did. And he did. And just the first day I was in there studying about Paul saying, well, Paul said this, and Paul did this, and wow, really, Paul really did follow the Torah. wow, that's interesting because everybody's denying him. I think people become followers of themselves and followers of other people instead of followers of Yahweh and followers of Yeshua. Amen. And actually sit there and take the scriptures, dissect them, and I feel like the whole Bible is a big puzzle piece, and it all fits perfectly together. And it drives me insane when people say it contradicts itself. We as people contradict it. We contradict it. It does not contradict itself. And I feel like people took the time to sit and actually study out Paul, study out Yeshua, study the Torah, and see that Yeshua is in the Torah. I think we wouldn't have so much of this falling away from Paul and Yeshua. And so that's why I kind of stay away from, like they said, the Hebrew and all of that, and the Christianity, because the Christians follow Jesus, and like Carrie said, Jesus and Yeshua are not the same person. They are not at all. And I had my eyes open to that. When I came to Torah, I was dumbfounded at how different these two people were, and I want to follow Yeshua. So and like Carrie said too, they make Jesus out to be a god, and they, just like the Pope, they set him so much higher than Yahweh, and that just really bothers me. And to me personally, I don't know how others feel about this, but I feel like it becomes idolatry. You idolize the Pope more than God. You idolize, some people idolize the cross more than God. I know people like this. And I feel like that's where the problem comes from. We lose focus on God. He's so amazing, and just his word is unbelievable. And if you sit there and just read it, just comes to life, and you're like, wow, there's so much to it. It's just, it'll take more than my lifetime to understand all of it, But I mean, really, like I said, I think Carrie and Traci said it the best, but that's pretty much my take on it.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Sister Rebecca, Carrie, and Sister Traci, you sisters, and you are my sisters. You sisters are bringing up some valid points and some much needed insight into what I'm going to ask next. If you would allow me to set it up, because this is what is needed to talk about. A lot of people don't want to talk about the hardcore issues, but it's life. We have to deal with these things. I'm calling you guys my sisters. You're my sisters, okay? And Sal, my brother. Sal is your brother, all right? When Sister Traci says, the Hebrew roots, when people hear that term, it gets drugged through the mud, because you have the representatives out here, the so-called representatives. They're on social media. They're on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, going back and forth, slandering, doing a lot of back and forth slandering, right? And coming up with these crazy doctrines like, okay, you got to say the name this way. There's some people who say, okay, the Hebrew Israelites, that's for the Negroes, and the Hebrew roots, that's more for the Caucasian, right? And it's right in line, Adam, and the coat of many colors that goes with women. That's what this is about. That's what I believe that symbolized, right? We come in many forms. With the Hebrew Israel, I don't call myself a Hebrew Israelite.
Yeah, hold on. Does she?
I got a lot of background noise.
Yeah, Shan-T, you sound a little muffled. I don't know if you're moving around. Yeah, you sound kind of muffled a little bit. Can you hear me, Shan-T? Okay.
Yes.
Try it again.
Yes. Right. So the Hebrew Israelite, Sister Traci said she ran across on social media a lot of Hebrew Israelites. Now, I don't like to call myself a Hebrew Israelite. I just call myself an Israelite. Is one who strives and prevails and rules with the king. But a lot of Hebrew Israelites get painted as just black Hebrew Israelites, which they don't like that term. A lot of them don't believe in the same doctrines, but there are the crazy doctrines out there. The doctrine they think about Esau. They use different terms too for the Most High and Yod He Wahe. There's various pronunciations. A lot of people, yes, are deifying, Yeshua. They're deifying the Messiah. So, and this people is going to be in part, but the Hebrew Israelite versus the Hebrew root. It should not be a versus.
No.
Why do you think people come up with these categories? And why do you think people like to stay away, or some Hebrew Israelites like to not go over to anybody they think is not of their skin tone? They think they don't have anything to say. They think that the Spirit doesn't work and talk through them and manifest through them, and vice versa, the names, when people hear Hebrew roots and Hebrew Israelites, the names get drugged through the mud because they think everybody believes the same thing, and they paint everybody with a broad brush, but there's different factions. Like, before you answer the question or, comment on, over in the Hebrew Israelite area, right, there are some who believe in Old Testament only, and then there's some who believe in the whole book. And there's some who, when they believe in the Old Testament only, they get into Talmud and Mishnah and Kabbalah. And there are some who are Old Testament only, who only go with the 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? So, and then, over in Hebrew Israelite, there's this crazy back and forth over, okay, you believe in the Messiah, you're an idolater, okay, well, and then, the whole book believers, right, they sometimes will say, well, you guys don't believe, you guys don't know what you believe, you guys don't know what you're looking for in your Messiah, all this stuff, with these crazy doctrines, you know what I mean? So what's your take? Let's start with Rebecca.
Can you just briefly go over that question just one more time? I'm sorry, I kind of lost what the question really was.
The question is, just what's your take on your comments on Hebrew Israelites, being more so, they have this doctrine, but people think Hebrew Israelites are more so for Negroes or more melanated people or black people, right? And they think, Hebrew is more for your Caucasian or your European faction. We both go through the same thing,
Well,
people think we're – go ahead.
Well, really, you're meaning the whole, they think that the Israelites are only meant for the black people. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Yep. Okay, so I just recently was exposed to that, and I didn't even know anything about it because, like I said, I'm kind of a baby to the whole Torah thing anyway, so I'm still new to all of this. I'm still learning so much. And I remember one day I was on Instagram and just following a bunch of Torah followers, and I commented on one of these people had posted a picture, and it said, something about Yahweh, and I just commented and said, amen. I mean, that's all I did. I just made one single comment and said, amen. And this girl just blew me up. I mean, just started yelling at me and calling me a dog, and how dare I say anything on this page. And I was just like, what? What is this girl talking about? Why is she so hostile and calling me a dog and God hates me and all this other stuff? And I was so confused because I'm like, what is going on? And so I took a screenshot and shared it with some of my friends, and I said, what is going on with this girl? And that's when they told me that's the Black Hebrew movement, where they believe that they are from the tribe of Judah and that they are the true Israelites and that they are the only ones who will be saved in the end, and white people are not saved at all. And that And I remember commenting, and I was trying to be so humble and so nice to her because I didn't know anything about it. And I said, I tried to have a conversation with her, why do you feel like this? And I was coming at her so kindly, and she still was just like, shut up, you have no right to even speak to me, you are nothing but a dog. I'm just like, what is going on right now? And and I just stopped. I just knew at that moment she was so out of control for no reason. I had to just stop and just not say anything to her. And that was the first time that I had ever seen anything like that. And then after that, I started seeing it everywhere. I see it on Pinterest. I see it on Facebook, Instagram, everything, where they just downright just say that white people were never supposed to be God's people at all, which really confuses me, because like Traci and I just talked about recently was it's not even about color at all. And I know Traci can say more about that. It's not even about color whatsoever. And how do they even get that idea that white people aren't chosen whenever we're humans too? We were created by Yahweh as well, so I don't even understand where they get that from. So, I mean, really, that's all I really have to say about it, because I don't know too much about it even still today. I really don't. That's the only thing I've ever had happen. So.
No problem. But thank you for sharing that testimony, that witness, Sister Carrie.
I kind of have to stay away from them. I've never dealt with a woman. It's always been men, and I've watched the videos where they've been on the street telling women that they were going to rape them in front of their children. I just don't understand how, if your God and my God are the same God, my God is not telling me to be this angry and hateful, and I don't get it. You know, I was told I used to listen to this one YouTube thing. I just remember it was something 777, and that's where the whole first time I heard that, you know, maybe Yeshua was black, and that doesn't bother me. No matter what color he is, that doesn't negate what he did for me. And he didn't teach hate in the Bible. He you know, even the Samaritans he helped. You know, I totally lose my fruit if I try to interact with these people. I can be nice and it does no good. I don't hate anybody, and I don't see why somebody would hate me without knowing. You know, I don't even think I would ever do anything to make somebody hate me. And it's awful. It's awful to hear that coming out of a child, because we're all children of the Most High, even if our eyes haven't been opened. And just to hear the hate that flows out of their mouths it's sickening, and I don't understand it, you know. So I try to stay away from it. I've seen a few videos I commented, and I finally had to turn the comments off because it wasn't going to stop. I was going to be called a bee and, you know, and be told I was going to be washing their feet. I mean, I didn't told that I wasn't making it to the millennium. I was told I was going to be a slave to them. So I just have to stay away from certain people, and it's not even the black Hebrew Israelites. It's the white, you know, Messianic people on Facebook. I can't stay more than 5 minutes without getting angry about something that they're putting out there as some doctrine that only they have the corner on. And so I just, you know, and I have to even look when I have no issue. I love all people, but when I get like black guys that will send me friend requests, I have to look down their wall to see if they are these black Hebrew Israelites, because I'm thinking, why do they want to be friends with me just to yell at me and think that I'm a lesser person than they are? So I try to stay out of that camp, get away from it.
Right, I definitely understand. Not all Hebrew Israelites are the same. It's just the ones who pose more hate. You know, it seems like they have more pop-ups on the YouTube, you know, and things of that nature. And I understand what you said about the people on the Facebook. When I started, you know, there was a lot of me coming into the groups, and I seen people arguing and, you know, sword fighting and things of that nature. So I know everyone of a different faction is not the same, belief, but I'm definitely not for the hate. Sister Traci, what are your thoughts?
Well, listening to you guys talk, I think now is a perfect time to remind everybody that the remnant gets smaller and smaller every day. It's just that simple. If you are falling into a form of religion that is preaching hatred and division, then you are worshiping the wrong God, in my opinion. Now, I personally know, and I had a few friends who shied away from this conversation just based on the fact that you guys are Hebrew Israelites. And I told them, I said, no, they're not those type of Hebrew Israelites. Trust me, this guy, I've been talking to him. He's got a sweet and a kind and soft spirit. I was like, this is not what this is about. And the reason I know that is because, like I said before, it was a Hebrew Israelite that brought me into Torah. It was a Hebrew Israelite who I reached out to on YouTube, who took the time to answer my questions, who basically told me, sister, it doesn't sound like you're a Christian. It sounds like you're an Israelite to me. And I'll never forget that. And I watched his videos for a long time and started seeing him getting attacked by this other faction of Hebrew Israelites. And it's the same as it is in our faction. I get attacked by people all the time because I choose to not look into flat earth theory, or because I choose to pronounce the name a certain way, or I choose to keep this calendar instead of that one. So, I mean, I have to put up with it in my own ranks too. And I think it really is tragic, and it's sad for the people who are simply here just trying to learn and trying to love Yahweh with all our hearts and trying to overflow that love onto the people around us. Because when we have that constant bickering, hatred, and division in the background, it makes it very hard for us to stay focused. And I think that's the enemy's way of keeping us without focus and keeping us divided, because if we continually divide ourselves from other people, then we cannot come together as a body. And I believe that there's a place at the table for everybody. I really do. I believe wholeheartedly that Yahweh, not the Catholics, not the Methodists, not the Hebrew roots, not the Israelite camps, not any of these other factions, Yahweh is regathering his remnants. There is nothing that is going to stop him from doing that, because his word says he's going to do it in Ezekiel 36 and 37. He says he's going to do it. So when I listen to these people tell me, well, you're just putting yourself under a bondage and curse. Well, that is not what Deuteronomy tells me I'm putting myself under. It says I'm putting myself in his grace for his blessing by keeping his Torah, by guarding his commandments. I am putting myself in his good graces, and I'm doing what Yeshua told me to do. I am keeping his commandments. I am loving him. And I cannot love my brother and my sister without knowing those commandments and by practicing those commandments, because that is what John tells us. It tells us, First John tells us, this is how we know we love the children of God, if we keep his commandments. That's how we know we're doing it right, if we just know his commandments and keep them. And everybody's so afraid of it. But yes, I believe that just like in your camp, as in our camp, we have all been painted with this broad brush, and nobody wants to talk to each other because we're afraid of each other, or because we despise each other, or those people don't have any truth, or this person's walking the wrong way, or those people are the wrong color. I think it's on both sides of the fence, and it's the same reason there's 3 different denominations of Baptists, for crying out loud, because nobody can agree on anything, you know. So, I mean, that's why everything has to be based on the Word of God and the Torah. Period. You know, and if we know the commandments and we're walking them out, then trust me, everything will be fine. But everybody's trying to micromanage the Bible, basically. And let's face it, you know what? That Bible, you can make that Bible say anything you want it to say.
Mhm.
You can. You can twist it, you can turn it, you can throw it upside down, and you can make it dance for you. And it will say anything you want it to say because that's what your heart wants to hear. And you know
Yep.
what? It was actually a black Hebrew Israelite who told me this one time, and I thought it was so great. He was talking about how people look at Paul, and he said, I cannot remember his name right now, but he said that Paul, when you read Paul, it shows the condition of your heart, because you're either going to read him and think that you are free from all that law stuff, or you're going to read him and know that you need to start obeying those commandments. And it's going
That's
to
right.
it's going to be your heart that determines which way you walk in that
Amen,
in that
sister.
aspect. So, yeah. So I mean, so I have a lot of history with the Hebrew Israelites, good and bad. I'm not even going to waste my time talking about the bad because they're not here today and they're not part of the conversation because of what they say and do. So, you know what? I'm just going to stick with the good. So,
hallelujah. Thank you for those words, Sister Traci. I share your same sentiment again. I am loving this conversation because this is the bridge that we needed. I've been,
yes,
like I said, I have no issues with the Hebrew roots. Those are my brothers and sisters, and we'll just call them believers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Let's call we're all believers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is a great start to a great relationship. And I share your same thoughts. Right now we have a couple of callers on the line, and once again, this is Debate Talk for you. If you would like to call in with your questions or comments, the number is 319-527-6239. All right, Sal, you can go to the callers.
All right, family, once again, this is your time to ask your questions live right here on Debate Talk for Radio. I see we have a lot of people on the phone lines. We have some Skype callers out there. And shout out to the people overseas, the UK. We have a lot of UK listeners out there. We appreciate the family overseas checking out the show. But if you're listening on Skype, you're going to have to press 1 if you have any questions or comments. My special guest caller is out there. It's press number 1, and we'll bring you with a conversation. Well, let's go to the phone lines. For the new listeners out there, there's no foul language. You got to keep it clean, keep it professional. And once again, if you're on the phone lines right now, you just got to press number 1. That lets me know that you have a question or a comment. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to 530-434. You're live.
Hey, everybody. Much love. My name is B.A. Ben Abraham. And most definitely sat back and I've gotten a chance to listen to some of the conversation. And I would just like to expand on a little bit if you guys don't mind. And what's up, Shan-T? What's going on with you?
What's up, brother B.A. in the building? This is my brother, y'all. This your brother. Go ahead, B.A.
Yeah, me and Shan-T, we're real close. We teach and we study in the same Bible study group out in California where we're located at. And Shan-T was the first individual to introduce me to the Hebrew Roots movement. And to be perfectly honest, I have learned a lot when it comes to the term Ezer Kenegdo, and the action and the functions of our sisters in this walk, rather you be Hebrew or Hebrew Roots movement or a believer. That most definitely woke me up to a few things. So I learned that from the Hebrew Roots movement, and I thank the Most High for that. Me being a Hebrew Israelite, that people like to call me, and I don't subscribe to racism because we understand that's a snare, and the Most High did not reveal that. And those who teach that, they are a lie, and the truth is not in them. And with that being said, for us Hebrews who subscribe to the ways of the Most High, we understand that being an Israelite or keeping Torah, these are actions. And this is how we are separate from those who commonly call themselves by these titles, and who are just infatuated with being associated with these titles. And so with that being said, with such as me and the Shan-T and a few others who are in the Hebrew Israelite movement who make it a point to separate ourselves and keep Torah and understand it's an action, how can we all work together with the Hebrew Roots movement and be more of a light to those who are in darkness?
Was that directed at any particular person, or?
For the whole panel, for those who are willing to answer.
Well, I think everything starts with communication. you know, and this is a great start, like Shan-T said. This is a great start. The fact that people are willing to come to the table and talk, and this is a big problem that we have in this social media age, is that people will tend to watch somebody's video and just attack instead of actually talking. And I've been attacked. I have my own YouTube channel. I make videos all the time. So I haven't been real active lately, but I have tons of videos on there. And I can't tell you how many times I get attacked because and they want to just like hold you down in all of these comments and stuff. And I keep trying to tell them, look, if you want to have a conversation, let's Skype, let's message, let's get through this, let's talk about this. But they never take me up on the offer. They always just throw 20 more scriptures on. It's not that I haven't read the same scriptures. It's just that I read them differently. So I think everything starts with communication. So I think, and this program Sal has is amazing because it does. It bridges a lot of people together. And even though we walk away at the end of the day and maybe we don't 100% agree, but we're at least willing to talk. And other people are listening. And one of the great things about debate, and what I tried to tell a friend of mine, is that debate is not always for the debaters. The debate is for the people who are listening in, who have questions, who are wanting to have answers to, and maybe you say something in that debate that didn't win your brother, but you actually helped somebody who was listening, who was on the sidelines, you know, to kind of come into their calling. So I think everything starts with communication. So this is a great start, and I yield.
I think that if we can all be civil, and I don't know. I just don't know if we can all, if we're all going to be one before you. It might take Yeshua coming to get us all on the same page, because, like, you know, as I said, on the Messianics, there are so many different. It's almost getting to be just like the Christians. There's just so many different factions, and you know, it's almost like Paul was saying. You know, I'm a person. You know, this is my teacher, and this is my teacher, and this is my teacher, and we all go by what our teachers say. And you know, I have a teacher also, but I know he's only a man, and I'm finding that out, a lot more each day, and that it's really my place to study, and I just try to, I just try to be humble, and I pray that I could be a light. I don't post a whole lot of stuff, but I do. I wait for questions. I don't try to jam this down anybody's throat, because one thing my rabbi says is that is above my pay grade, because he's the only one that can open the eyes. And but hopefully I can be there to answer a question, or give a link to a video, or just something, and just try to be humble and as much like Yeshua as I can be. I wish there was an answer, you know, what could bring us all together, because you think Yeshua would be enough. But everyone's wanting to put him in their own little box, kind of. And I know there are a lot of people coming out of Christianity who want to bring some of that with them, and it just doesn't work that way.
I hear you.
Sorry, yeah, I was just making sure everybody got a chance to respond to your question.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. No,
right.
I thought that was somebody trying to say something. I'll fall back and wait till they're done if they were trying to say it. No, but with that being said, I do agree with both of the panelists who spoke. I'm not familiar with your names, but I praise the Most High for the words. But the last person who was saying that it may take Yeshua, the master teacher, to his second coming to unite us, I do agree with that. But I think that it shouldn't have to take him literally to do it. I believe that as human beings, and for us who have these titles, whatever title we to call ourselves, if we're observant of Torah and the teachings of the Most High, we have to understand that as we have to make the choice to want to come together as well. So do I agree with you that it may take Yeshua to bring us together? Yeah, I do. But I think what really separates us is that if we allow the Spirit of the Most High to impose His will upon us, to come together with others who are also walking or being a light to others in darkness. So, but
Amen.
I do stand with you. Yeah, amen, most definitely. And we have to want to. We have to want to do better. We have to want to bridge the gap between these both of our communities. And another thing I've noticed on YouTube, on the internet from time to time, that the Hebrew Roots movement, they get a lot of flack and they get a lot of smearing from Christendom, and we Hebrews over here as well. We get the smearing as well. How can we be more effective and bypass the smearing and the propaganda and the lies that are reported and told about us completely? How can we be more?
Okay, I got to say something here. First off, I want to say something about Yeshua coming back to reunite us. I don't know that it will take Yeshua to come back and reunite us, and I'll tell you why and what I base that on. Is because I believe wholeheartedly that this is not a work of man, and that it's actually Yahweh who is restoring His remnant. And what's going to happen in the process of that restoration is that people like myself and you and Shan-T and Carrie and Rebecca are going to start gravitating towards each other. And we're going to start blocking out all that background noise. And we're going to start to form the body. And I see it happening all the time. And it's happening on a massive scale. I'm an Uber driver in Las Vegas, so I get people here from all over the world. I can't tell you how many times I get people in my car, and I always find a way to work Yahweh into the conversation. I can't tell you how many people that I've met who are like, you are like the third Messianic I've run into this week. You know, the word is getting out there and this is happening. And so I don't know that it will take Yeshua coming back to reunite the body. I think Yahweh is going to reunite that body Himself. And He's going to do it supernaturally because He can. And now, and let's talk about the Christians for a minute. Sadly, there's a lot of people who sit in churches every Sunday who think that they're right with God, who think that they're doing all the right things, but they're avidly opposing keeping His Torah. And their eyes have not been open to see that what they are doing is actually going to get them a spot in front of Yeshua on Judgment Day where He tells them, I never knew you. Depart from me. Okay, now these people, they're without excuse. And I'm saying this with all the love in my heart because it's not that people are not trying to warn you. You are refusing and you are avidly fighting God's will by fighting with people who are keeping Torah, especially people who are keeping Torah and have the Messiah. You are fighting against the very will of God, and if you read His prophecies and what He's going to do in the last days, you would know that. But sadly, a lot of people have these blinders on, and nobody comes to the Father unless He draws them. So they might sit there, and God, I hope to God this doesn't happen for a lot of people, but they might sit there until the day they die thinking they got all the answers and standing up with all the pride in the world and standing firm on their accusations and judgments against others. And it's going to be a sad day when that turns around on them. So, you know, I stand very firm in that because I'll tell you what, I've gotten accused and condemned and judged more by Christians than anybody else.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
they are without excuse. And at some point we have to understand that it is not within our power to save these people. It is not within our power to open their eyes. But I'm going to keep putting out my videos because my videos are not for them. My videos are for the person who thinks there's something more, that something is missing. What is it? I can't put my finger on it. And hopefully something that they hear in my video will make them go, oh my gosh, she's right. You know, that's what I'm looking for. That's what it is. And that's how I found Rebecca. When I found Rebecca, she was on, I believe it was a Rob Skiba page, and she was asking questions, and nobody was answering her, and she was just flailing around there. Nobody would answer her questions. And I came in, and I grabbed her up, and I said, nope, you're mine.
You saved the day.
I saved the day. So that's what I do. That's who my love is for. That's what my the message that I put out is for those people who are looking for answers. To tell them there are answers. I might not have them all for you, but there are answers. And yes, you're on the right track. Everything starts with wondering. Everything starts there. So I yield.
Well, I do agree. And go ahead, sis.
I just said praise Yah.
Yeah, praise the Lord, Bobby. I'll be quick, and I'm gonna fall back after this. Well, like I said, my name is B.A. Ben Abraham, and just know that there are people that watch the Hebrew Roots movement and will appreciate it, and keep up the good work. And I'm most high willing to get a chance to converse, even meet, and bring more praises to the Father, bring more people to Him. All right, Shan-T, I'm holler at you on the Sabbath. All right, Sal, keep doing the good work, and shalom.
Shalom.
Amen. Shalom.
Bye.
All right. Once again, families, debate talk for you. For those that's joined in, we have a lot of callers on the phone line. The title is Exploring the Hebrew Roots Movement. My special guest is Traci, Carrie, and Rebecca, with my co-host Shan-T. They're over to call in. If you have any questions or comments, it's 319-527-6239. You can call in via phone, call in via Skype. Also, you can send me an email. For those that don't want to call in but still have questions, send me an email at debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. That's debatetalk, the number 4, and the letter U @gmail.com, and I'll gladly read out your questions or your comments to my special guest. Let's go to the next caller. Let's go to 403-888. You're live on air.
Hi there. Thanks, Sal. I appreciate the panel, very articulate women. Very interesting. So, my name is Brian. I've got a couple of questions. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell which girl was which. I'm not sure who said which. One of you fine ladies said that when you began reading the Old Testament, the Torah, if you wish, that you kept coming across the word forever and everlasting in the book of Exodus, I think it was. Which one of you was that?
That was me, Traci.
Your name is Traci?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. And am I coming through clear? Sometimes on my cell phone there's an echo. Am I okay? Am I clear?
You're
yeah,
good.
no, we
You're
hear
good.
you fine.
Yeah. I'll let you know if there's sound any distortion. Good.
Okay, thanks, Al. So I just wanted to mention something to you. My persuasion is.
Matter of fact, stand by. Do me a favor. I'm hearing some feedback. If you can, just mute your phones.
I'm just taking it off of speaker. It should be a little better now.
All right, good.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sound better. Good.
Okay. So Traci, just a thought, something you might want to look into. The word that's translated as everlasting and forever in the Hebrew Bible is a term ha'olam, and it has come to mean forever and everlasting in most of the standard English translations. However, I would just encourage you to take a look at some other versions that render it age-lasting or something like that. There is a bit of a range of meaning to that word. It's just a word study that you might be interested in. Now, the other question that I had was, which one of you girls is the one that was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness?
Carrie, that's me.
Hi, Carrie. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness myself as well. I left many, many years ago. So just hearing you speaking, we have a certain connection that I don't know how old you were, how long you were raised in the witnesses. Was it for many years, or how long was your family witnesses?
They left when I was about 5, but I held on to those beliefs probably until my early 20s. That was, I came from the right thing until I learned how new the religion was. Yeah.
Well, because I heard you say that your father celebrates Christmas now, and something like that. So, in your case, relatively easy for you to accept the idea in the Hebrew Roots movement that Christmas is something that you shouldn't do. Oddly enough, myself, since I've left, I've gone the other way, but I won't emphasize that. But I am curious. Do you, as an if you were still active as a Jehovah's Witness or attended congregation meetings up until perhaps into your early 20s, did you go to meetings after your family left, or did you just kind of hold on to the belief structure?
Just the belief structure, as in, I didn't believe in hell. I didn't believe that Messiah died on a cross. It was a stake. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing that they believe about Jesus not being Elohim.
Yes.
I didn't get all. I wasn't. I was too small. And,
if you were only 5. Why did your parents leave?
I really don't know. My dad still talks to them, and I think he's talked to them about me because he'll bring up verses that they give him, especially the one about the one where Peter has the vision that's supposed to mean that we're allowed to eat whatever we want. And I tried to explain to my dad what that actually meant, but he always comes back with, well, how do you know you're right?
I didn't quite catch that. Where Peter, something about where Peter says we can have divisions. I didn't quite.
No,
could you expand on that a bit?
They gave him the verse where Peter has the vision. And all this food is put in front of him. Some of it is not clean food, and I try to explain to my dad that's not about food. That's about Gentile and Jew not being better than the other. But then he always comes back with
I thought you said division. The vision, yes, in Acts chapter 10. Yes. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, now, how do you feel about? I know one of the girls said something I don't really care too much about what the pronunciation is of the divine name of Hashem. When I first left the witnesses, or even before I did, oddly enough, I was giving a talk. I gave the talk about the divine name, and ended up getting reprimanded for it because I said that it was okay to say or use the pronunciation Yahweh. Now, when I left, oddly enough, for a number of years I thought that it was better to say the name as Yahweh. I know that even it is not the correct pronunciation either, and I agree with one of the panelists who said that it doesn't make a lot of sense to fight about that. I've gone back, oddly enough, to using the word Jehovah because that's the tradition in which I was raised in English Christendom. But how do you feel about it as an ex-Jehovah's Witness? What's your feeling about the name itself? What do you think about it, and how do you pronounce it, and how do you feel about it? What are your private heartfelt associations about the name itself?
I think it's a very wrong name, and it would be called Yehovah, or Yah. It would start with a Y because there was no J. Just like the Jews were the Yehudim, Yehuda. I think that I guess lately I've been looking a lot into that name, and because I know Nehemiah Gordon has come out with that being the name Yehovah. I don't even really like to say it. I think of that as the most wrong name out of all of them. I just don't use that name, and I can't give you a really good reason why. I just really believe that is not the name. That's kind of why I went back to Hashem just within the past couple of weeks, because I was, I went back to Yahweh. I was Hashem, Yahweh. I keep going back and forth. And even my little boy, he's like, Mom, you're not back on Hashem again, are you? And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm sorry. So when we pray, he says Yahweh, I say Hashem, because we do our prayers together tonight.
All right, caller. Caller, what's your name, by the way? What's your name when you came in?
Brian.
Hi. Yes, my name is Brian.
Brian. Thank you so very much, Brian. We appreciate your questions. And keep the ball rolling. If you do have other questions, you can press the number 1 again to get back in the queue. Sal, do you have any more callers?
Well, yes, we do. Once again, our number is 319-527-6239. We appreciate the family out there that's calling in via phone and via Skype. We're going to go to the callers. Remember, we have a high volume of callers, so please, I know you have a lot of questions, but, say some, 1 or 2, 3, maybe 3 questions tops, and we can move on to the next person. All right, let's go to the next caller, though. Let's go to 731-287. You're live.
Hi, this is Tammy. I'm Tracy's friend who chickened out. She asked me to join it before. Hey, Tracy. I just wanted to, comment. I heard her talking about the persecution that she gets from, Christian people. And I have done this for 23 years, and my husband actually has his entire life. He's been this way he'll be 46 in September. And I'm an only child, and my parents, they just are steadfast Baptists. I was raised in the Baptist church, and their criticism of all of this is so bad that I've just had to cut contact with them. They try to manipulate my children. It's horrible, and I wish it could be better, but I don't know of anything to make it better.
Anybody want to respond to that? I will say, Sister Pam, before anybody responds, this is Sister Shan-T. I was definitely raised Baptist too. Me and my husband are the only ones who's came out of our big families. A lot of our people are still in the Baptist church. So I feel the heart, and I'm with you. Sister Traci, Carrie, and Rebecca, I thank you for calling in, Sister Pam.
Yeah, and it's not just, I don't think it's not really just Christians that, you get things from, like they're saying, it's like if you don't believe exactly like some other people, they just attack you over little stupid stuff. It's just ridiculous how we can't get along. And like Tracy was saying, the reason that I shied away from doing this is because of my experience with the Israelite people. It's just if you say one little thing on Facebook or social media or anything, they're mean. I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't know what to expect, so that's kind of why I was scared. But this is good, because I want to be able to be around people and hear what they have to say, and I think that we should be able to get along. Like you said, we are brothers and sisters. We're a family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amen. We are a family.
I'd like to make a comment if I can real quick. Hey, Tammy, it's Rebecca. I just wanted to say sometimes I think that people they kind of lose the spirit a little bit, and they kind of get agitated and frustrated, and that's why people start to kind of fight with each other. And like I saw today in one of my Torah groups, sometimes you just have to agree to disagree and move on instead of fighting, because when you start to fight, that's when the bad fruit starts to come out, and then you have the division, and it just explodes. And I feel like before it gets to that point, people just need to stop and take a step back. And also with your family too, Tammy, I feel like sometimes, I know the Bible says, well, you have to honor your mother and your father and this and that. Yeah, I understand that, but sometimes it's okay to take a step back from them as well. I've learned that with my family, with how they are and how they treat me, and sometimes how they can act towards me. Sometimes it's best to step away, just step back for a little bit, let them come to you. And actually they do. My dad will text me, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? And he's never done that before. So I feel like sometimes just take a step back and let God take control. Let Yahweh take control of the situation. And I feel like it all works out perfectly.
Yeah, because the people that you need to get away from, they'll usually just cut their own self away from you.
That's right.
Yeah. And also, Tammy's in a different kind of situation too, because they haven't really cut her off. So every once in a while, you'll see them on Tammy's feed, just totally prodding and picking at her. Like the other day when you put the thing up about eating pork and your cousin got on there, and so there's a little bit of a different dynamic there, because sometimes we're not being persecuted like persecution. We're being persecuted by picking on us and making fun of or making light of what we do. So
right.
It's a hard situation, it really is. So, but I'm glad you called in, Tammy.
Well, I finally got up the nerve.
Oh, well, I'm glad you did. I want to go on record saying that Tammy is probably the least shy person that I know. So I was really taken aback when she said she didn't want to do this, because I was like, if anybody's going to do this, it's going to be Tammy.
Well, it's totally because of the experience that I've had with the Israelite people. It's just it wasn't good, and I was kind of scared.
Yeah, that's exactly why I was telling the last caller who called in that communication is everything. We need to understand that we're not each other's enemy. Even though Hasatan is using some of us against us, we're not each other's enemy. And we do share so many of the same beliefs. So, and we have the two main pieces of the puzzle that makes us family. We have the Torah and we have Yeshua. And that makes us family. That means with those two things, we should be able to work through any obstacle.
That's right.
And personally, in my opinion, if you're dealing with a bunch of people that you're constantly having conflict with, then you need to just cut them away like a cancer. They're inhibiting your walk, and they're a stumbling block to you.
That's right. I've had people to unfriend me on Facebook that were other Messianic people over just the silliest stuff. But since they're gone, I have so much peace now. Because it was too frustrating. They were too frustrating for me. So it was good. It was a good thing to just cut that loose and let it be done.
Well, being that you called in, do you want to stay on the panel? You want to stay on the phone lines with us, or you want to just say a few words and go? You can stay with us if you like.
It doesn't matter to me. I can.
Right.
I can stay if you would like me to.
She's gonna stay. She's gonna stay.
Yes,
right.
she's gonna stay.
Hey.
Hey, all right, so you're going to stay with us then. You're going to stay with us. That's no problem. All right, once again, family, the number is 319-527-6239. You're now listening to Debate Talk Radio. For those just joining in, we have a lot of people joining into the show. The title of the show is Exploring the Hebrew Roots Movement. Exploring the Hebrew Roots Movement. We at Debate Talk for You Radio, we always like to bridge the gap. some people shun away from these conversations. So on Debate Talk Radio, we like to have that conversation. We like to build a bridge, so to speak, so we can all dialogue with different people and, very special guests. So I appreciate my special guests on the panel right now, and for coming out and being a first from the Hebrew Roots movement to speak, on Debate Talk Radio. So let me see. Let's go to the next phone call. Let's go to 865-282. You're live. 865-282. Are you there?
Hey, peace and shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Bishop Eliyahu. How's the panel doing?
We're good. Wonderful.
Good.
Shalom. I've been enjoying the conversation. And Brian, I don't know who that is that called in, but he's very interesting to me because he's brought that up a couple of times about Olam. And I know what he's getting on to there. I think it's very interesting. So, Brian, whoever's out there, I agree with you that the covenant's there when it talks about everlasting, that it's not talking about a perpetual thing that would continue on. Some of those things would come to an end once Olam Haba comes in or the world to come. But I actually had a question for the panel, and I just wanted to say briefly. First of all, I wanted to say about Jehovah or Yahweh or Yahweh, that's actually incorrect. See, where that comes from is from a 16th century German translator that wrote the name Yod-He-Wad-He using the vowels of Adonai, because the ancient Jewish text from which he was translating had the vowels of Adonai under the consonant of Yod-He-Wad-He. So by doing this, he incorrectly came up with the name Yahweh or Yehovah or Jehovah or however you want to say it. There's not a third syllable there. It would be, you're saying Yahweh, I would say Yahweh, but that's just the difference in the pronunciation there. But the third syllable is non-existent dealing with the name. But what I wanted to ask the panel was, and bless you sisters for coming on and doing this. I commend you for the courage that you had in doing this and sharing your faith, because I know that the ridicule and the things that you go through must be, very painstaking, and the suffering that you go through is very real. So I'm going to be praying for you and your families tonight, and I pray that you come into deeper knowledge and into the grace of God and walking in the love of the Almighty. And so, but I wanted to ask you about the word Christian. I heard the way that you're using it. Specifically, do you think it's a bad word? I want to ask all of you, because I noticed that you're calling people Christians. I would call the people that you're calling Christian, I would call them Protestants, or I would call them Catholics, because
Amen.
That's what they are. I wouldn't say they're Christian. But I noticed that you're calling them Christian, and maybe that's just out of habit. I don't know. Or do you think that the word Christian in the Bible is, a misnomer, or, it's used wrongly, or it shouldn't be applied to New Covenant believers? And I was just interested to see why most of you were using that term in a way that seemed derogatory towards people who don't keep the law. And that was my question posed to you.
This is Rebecca. Can I actually say something about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
How I feel, at least, this is my own personal opinion about this, but the reason why I say Christian is because when I say Christian, that just means a person who follows Christ, a person who follows Jesus. And to me, if I say Christian, then I also mean a wide variety of like Baptist, Lutheran, all those, 140,000 different sects that fall into that category of Christian. So when I say Christian, that's literally that's just what I mean. I just fit it all into one. You're just a Christian. You're a person who follows Christ, and a person who probably is going to follow just the New Testament only and not follow the Old Testament. That's just my take on it.
Okay,
I personally don't
like
the word Christian. I use it out of habit, but I try not to. My son, he's 16. He totally won't even use it. So I think it's because when you use that word, you're putting yourself in that camp, and with them, they don't keep any of the Torah. They keep all of the secular holidays, and they're just completely different from what we're trying to show ourselves as. So I try not to, but yeah, I do it out of habit, and that is the easiest way, to explain yourself to someone is to say, yes, I am a Christian, but no, I don't like the word.
Well, I personally, the word Christian, the only time it's used in the Bible is used in a derogatory manner. The early believers were called the Way. They were a sect of Judaism.
That's what I like to say.
They were called the Way. So I don't like to use the word Christian, although I still use it out of habit. Mm-hmm. But I basically believe that every denomination out there, other than the people who are keeping Torah, are Catholics. They're keeping all the Catholics' holy days, all their feast days.
Right.
And they're not followers of Yeshua. They're followers of Paul. And they think that they're following Yeshua, but Paul, the way they look at Paul, the way that they read Paul, with the heart that they read Paul with, contradicts everything that Yeshua said. So we have a problem there.
My take on Paul is that Paul is a test. And I think that it was written in a way as to test your heart. Because you can take Paul either way. And it's going to be, your heart is going to direct you to what you see
exactly
that
what
Paul's
Traci
saying.
said.
So I think that it is a test.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my rabbi
Bishop,
did.
And Carrie.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He did.
Bishop
My rabbi did.
I'm gonna let you respond. Shan-T finish, but we got to get to some other callers. But yeah, Shan-T, I'm sorry. I understand that. That's Shan-T.
No, that was somebody else who wanted to.
That was Carrie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Yeah, I was saying my rabbi did a whole teaching on the heart. It's called the Heart of the Matter. It's his longest teaching. I don't know if there's 50-some parts, and it's a lot of it.
It's like 70. Paul. Yeah.
It's up there. Yeah, I came in about 40, I think, is when I came into there. So, and it was all about the heart, and he's saying a lot in Paul's letters.
I mean, I've never heard that teaching. That's just the way that I feel about Paul.
Yeah.
All right. Bishop Eliyahu, did you want to respond before we go to the next caller?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I think you satisfied me with your answers. I think you're very clear about it. I just wanted to say I think it's interesting because we find that word Christian or Cristianos in the text, and I think I heard one of the ladies say that it was used in a derogatory term. But actually, when you look closely in Peter, First Peter chapter 4:13, it says, "But rejoice, inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy." And the Apostle Paul, I like how he says it. He says, if we suffer with him, then we shall reign with him. When you go down and first, I like how Paul says it too. When you go to Peter, though, here in the text, in verse 16, it says, "Yet if any man suffer as a Christian," that would be Christianos there or whatever in the Greek, it says, "Let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf." So this is not something to be ashamed of if you're called by this name. And the people being called by this name are actually those who are following the way. So I'm not getting big on the label. I understand that. Some people, I'm not going to be upset with somebody if they don't understand things the way I understand them. But what I will say is this. With that term, the one lady I heard say she doesn't even like it. She doesn't even like the way it sounds, which is interesting because in the three cases that you see it used, it's not something that's denounced. As well, in the text where we see Peter using it here, it's not something that he's telling us that we should be ashamed of. As well, pronouncing that towards the believers. And on top of it, hold on one second, I'm about to end here. This is all I wanted to say. When dealing with this word Christian, I don't want to give anything to those who it doesn't belong to. It means a follower of Christ or Mashiach. That's holy or consecrated, you see, unto Yah. And as one that's anointed as a follower of Mashiach, to give that term to somebody else would be, I just feel, would be a dishonor towards the Most High. And the reason why is because of the people that suffered under that name, who were the ones who came before us, the ones that he's talking about here in the epistle, and is talked about in the other places, the ones that suffered for the cross and so forth, and the testimony of Jesus Christ, and for the gospel of the true and living God. And I just wanted to say that because, like I said, they're Protestant. That's what they are. I mean, they come out of the Catholic Church where they're Catholic. Some call themselves Orthodox, but that's pretty much all they have. They have Orthodox, they have Catholic, and they have Protestant. Besides that, we know who they are: Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Pentecostals. That would fall into really Protestantism. All that stuff is the same wave. But I just want to say that because I also went through a time to where a lot of people tried to make me feel ashamed of using the word Christian. And I just want to say I don't have any problem calling myself a Christian, and I know that I'm a son of Abraham. So I just want to make that known. That's all I want to say.
I don't have a problem with calling myself a Christian, and I still use the term. I'm just saying because of what Christians stand for now is so different from what you're saying, that we read in the text of the Bible. There's no comparison. They're completely different. So that's just
right,
the reason why I don't really call myself a Christian, or I try to stay away from that. Not because of what it was, but because of what it is now.
Because you're set apart. That's why.
Right.
Yeah. And also, we have to take into consideration, I know where you're going with all of this, too, and I totally feel you. But we have to take into consideration what it meant to be a Christian back then, and what these ladies are saying, too, and what it means now. That word Christian that was put on those people, the followers of the way, that term Christian, that was warranted because those people truly did follow the Messiah. And they also kept the Torah. So when even the ones that weren't keeping the Torah were learning the Torah, according to Acts 15. Okay? So they were learning. They were in the process of learning the Torah. So now we have a whole bunch of people running around today, and this goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning of our conversation, which is, how the Hebrew roots name has been drugged through the mud, and how the Hebrew Israelite name has been drugged through the mud. Well, the word Christian has been drugged. The word Christian has so much blood on its hands, it's not even funny. Right. So to call myself a Christian actually makes somebody look at me in a certain way, and it's not always a good way. So to avoid that, I tend to call myself a Torah observant believer. That's what I call myself. I don't want to be lumped in as a Messianic because I am very un-Jewish. I don't want to be lumped in as anything else than what I am. Like Rebecca said, I believe in the whole Bible. I am a Torah observant believer, and that's just it. So I understand what you're saying, that you're proud to call yourself a Christian because Christian means something different to you than it means to all of these other people. And so I understand. I get it.
All right. Thank you, Bishop Eliyahu, for your comment and your question. Thank you, sisters, for taking the callers. I know the callers in the Big Talk to you get very interesting. Before we move on, I do want to bring this up. Y'all family talks. I want to read something from one of the resources.
It sounds, Shan-T, you sound kind of far away. You sound kind of muffled again.
Okay. After Paul left Corinth, it's by Bruce Winter. This is page 134. It says, we have some idea of how early Christians were first perceived by Romans in Antioch. According to E.A. Judge, the term Christian, or Christianoi, as that iota at the end to make it plural, it was coined by the Romans. They were first new Christians, Acts 11:26. The term can hardly be invented by Orthodox Jews since it concedes the messiahship of Jesus, Yeshua. Its suffix implies the word was coined by speakers of Latin. The suffix, Ianos, constitutes a political comment. It is not used of the followers of a god. It classifies people as partners of a political or military leader and is mildly conspicuous. The label was not a self-designation. It was a perception of the movement, not by Jews who would have conceded the title, but by Romans. This leads to my next question for you all, sisters. This resource I'm holding in my hand here is After Paul Left Corinth, The Influence of Secular Ethics and Social Change. When I got into the teachings of Paul, I actually wanted to get into some historical information that would enlighten me about his letters, the cultural, social, political parameters that were surrounding that time in first century AD. And I have books like The Empire, Roman Wives, Roman Widows. This one I'm holding in my hand, and one by Skip Mullen. One of the teachers who I ran into in the faith was Matthew Van Els. Brilliant. He helped me a lot when it came to trying to see what Paul really said about women, teaching scripture and things of that nature. So one of the fun. I named some teachers that I ran across, like Rico Cortez, Zach Bauer, Paul Neeson, Holisa Oline, Eddie Shumley, what's his name? Brad Scott helped me a lot with the Hebrew. Who are you guys? Who are some of you guys? Besides Miss Staley or Pastor Pursuit, who are some of you guys' favorite teachers and some of the topics that they brought up that enlighten your belief or enlighten your understanding and walk? We'll start with you, Rebecca.
Who did you say?
Rebecca.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure who she said. Well, for me, really, since I am still kind of new, I've been mostly, honestly, just sticking with my Bible. I feel like Yah should be the main teacher. So I've been just kind of sticking my Bible. But if I do watch anybody, when I do have time between my children and my 2 jobs that I work, I usually listen to Steve Berkson. I really like his teachings. When I first came to follow Torah a year ago, he was actually the very first person I talked to on the phone. I had a lot of questions that I still needed answers to, and I remember talking to him for 2 hours. And it was just a very wonderful conversation. He answered a lot of my questions, and so I just kind of stuck to him. And but other than him, really, I use Yeshua and Yahweh as my teachers, really, in the Bible. That's pretty much about it for me.
All right, sis. Thank you. Just curious.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say ditto on Rebecca. I'm Steve Berkson. He is my teacher. He's my covering. He's actually the first one I ran into. I wouldn't have known what Torah meant. I live in a small town in Ohio, and we have one Reform synagogue. So there are Jewish people around here. I had no clue what tzitzit were or if you'd asked me what Torah was, I would have thought it was some Spanish word. I know some people, they had a few teachers and they narrowed them down. He was the first person that I ran into, and I felt that's where I need to be. And so that's Steve Berkson for me. That's all. That's the only one I've really ever listened to, other than some Orthodox rabbis, but they're more anti-missionary. I just kind of wanted to see why they believe the way they believe.
All right. Is Steve from the 119 Ministry?
No, he's MTOO.
No.
What's
important to understand?
Go ahead.
Okay, what's important to understand is that most of the big Hebrew roots teachers have all stemmed out of the Worldwide Church of God. They are a Torah observant Christian-based group. I believe they're located in Ohio there, aren't they, Carrie?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, so Jim Staley came from there. Berkson has ties to the Worldwide Church of God and quite a few other people as well. So, but anyways, I would say that Rabbi Berkson is my main teacher. However, I do I got tongue-tied, sorry. I do subscribe to a lot of different people because I like a lot of different views and where I listen to a lot of commentary. So I will listen to Rico Cortez. I do subscribe to Zach Bauer. I do like, I still watch Passion for Truth. I've learned, listen, we can say whatever we want about Jim Staley, but Jim Staley really taught me to deal with my character in general. And his teachings were very foundational, and nobody has ever inspired me to open my Bible and study like Jim Staley did, because he was saying things that were so different. And I was just like, does it really say that in there? So, yeah, the first couple of years that I fell into this and found Passion for Truth, I was just like one notebook after another filled with scriptures, and half of my Bible is highlighted at this point from all the scriptures that I've learned. And so I would say that I will still turn on a Jim Staley teaching from time to time because I just need to stay that connection. I don't know why. I can't seem to break it. But I do like to listen to commentary, but I am very sharp, and like Rebecca said, I'm very grounded in my Torah. So when I hear something that doesn't line up with something I've read in my Bible, which and I've read through my entire Bible, and we read through the Bible with my kids as well. So I know what's in there. And so when somebody says something out of the ordinary, it's a great tool to have in your arsenal to get rid of people who are just way in left field. So, but I would say that my main teacher is Steve Berkson, even though I do have issue with some of his teachings, but it's always a situation where I can call him and talk to him personally, which I absolutely love. I didn't even have that when I had a local church. I couldn't just walk up to my pastor and talk to him. It wasn't that type of setting. So, but I can call this man who lives on the other side of the country any time of the day, and he'll answer my call. It's absolutely wonderful. So, and then, like I said, I did learn an awful lot from Pastor Dowell in the early days. So Pastor Dowell was very formative in my understanding of what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. So that's all I have to say. Tammy?
David and I, David, of course, was raised in this, and I've been in it for 23 years, but we just kept the Sabbath, we kept clean and unclean, and we kept Passover, but we didn't know anything else about, the other feast until I'd say 13, 14 years ago. Someone gave us Michael Rood's Feast of the Lord series. So that's how we started, it was kind of like we started watching this and was completely shocked. And then he said some things in there. Well, then that got me, looking into Christmas and all this. And so then I started with Richard Reeves. And Richard Reeves actually, came to our fellowship, and he's a really nice person. And he's with all of the holiday stuff. And also we listened to Monty Judah. He's the Lion and Lamb Ministries. So, but really now I just kind of do my own thing and study the Bible and let the Holy Spirit help me figure it out.
Hallelujah. Sister Tracy? Sister Tracy, you still there?
Yeah, I am. I actually already spoke before Tammy.
Yeah, she already said her piece, yep.
Anybody else? To teachers or any topics that helped enlighten you on your walk, on your journey? No.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you sound kind of far, Shan-T. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah, got
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else want to give any favorite teachers or any topics that have enlightened them, like doing more research in the Sabbath, doing more research in the feast days, doing more research on Paul, and then doing more research on Messiah and how is bringing to fruition a lot of sacrificial systems.
I think the one thing that has enlightened me the most is just actually walking it out.
Right.
It's one thing to say we keep the Passover or something like that. It's quite another thing to actually keep the Passover and see how that impacts your life. So I think the most enlightening thing is when you actually say, okay, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to give this a try and I'm going to see how this goes. I'm going to give it my all and I'm going to trust you and see the impact that just walking this out has on your life. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Let me tell you something. I walked without God for 40 years of my life, and I'll never go back to what I had before. I'll never go back because walking it out is just it just solidifies everything. So when somebody tells me that I'm in bondage, I have to laugh because they have no clue. Let me just submit this to you guys. So in a typical Christian Protestant mind, they think that Yahweh sent Moses into Egypt to get his people out of slavery, to march them around the desert for years and take them to the Mount Sinai and put them back in slavery. That's what they're basically saying. So when somebody tells me that I'm in bondage, I just have to laugh. But yeah, I think the most enlightening thing is when you just finally decide to let go and do things his way and see how it impacts your life. I don't think any one teaching or anything like that has been more illuminating to me than that.
And that's true because, and to me, I think that the very first step, the most important key, is to dedicate to the Sabbath. And I think that once he sees that you are really, truly going to do this, he just starts opening your mind. And the same things that you have read in the text, you've read this same scripture 10 or 15, 20 times, and then just all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. Yep. And I think that is him, once he sees that you're serious, then he starts to open your mind and give you understanding to these things.
Definitely, and I think that's also why when he says in Exodus that when you keep the Sabbath, there's a sign between him and you. I think that is huge, and that always sticks out to me, and that's why I always tell my husband all the time, we have to keep the Sabbath, even though of course we're not perfect, we're still flesh, and there's we got kids and all this other stuff. Sometimes it is a little difficult, but it's a sign between him and me. And I'm going to do my best at keeping it because I love him so much. It is unbelievable. So.
I felt more bondage over Christmas than anything. I was kind of a relief that I didn't have to spend, weeks putting up Christmas decorations.
Absolutely hated Santa Claus. You do all the work and he gets all the credit.
Man, right? All glory is supposed to go to the Most High. Thank you, sisters. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Carrie. Sister Tammy for getting on. Hallelujah. And Sister Traci, we want to say we love you here. Of course, I know Sal, he'll welcome you back because Sal is a loving brother of this platform. You never know who it reaches. It reaches across the pond. It reaches across the waters. And like Sister Traci said, it's the spirit of the Most High who is drawing and saving. It's not man. And a lot of His word is manifesting. A lot of prophecy is unfolding right before our eyes, and it's supernatural and it's awesome. and I want to give all the glory to the Most High Yahweh. We're going to wrap it up. I want to say thank you, ladies, again for coming on. Thank you, sisters, for coming on. Any last words, Sister? We'll start with Sister Rebecca.
No, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to come on and speak with you guys. It's amazing, and I seriously hope that I can do it again. Shalom.
Shalom. Sister Carrie?
I thank you for having me, and I think we all just have to remember that the only reason we were put here is to honor and glorify His name, and that is, every day we wake up as a gift and another chance to do that, to honor and glorify His name.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
We'll take Sister Tammy next, and after that, Sister Traci.
I thank you for letting me speak and having me on, and I've enjoyed it, and pray that you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Sister Traci?
Well, I just thank Abba for Sal finding me in the first place. I think that we're going to have a long relationship going forward. I thank you guys for having us all on and listening to us and being part of a conversation. That was awesome, and I hope you all have a great night. Shalom.
Shalom. Brother Sal, before you take it away, how could we reach you all? Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube? Emails. You guys want to give those out?
Yeah.
On Facebook.
Well, go ahead.
Okay,
let's go
on
one.
Facebook
Shan-T, let's go one by one, or each individual. So
okay.
put their information.
Okay. I'm Carrie. On Facebook and Instagram, I'm Carrie So Very. It's Carrie CarrieSoh Very. And I think it might just be just the regular So on Instagram.
All right. Sister Tammy?
I'm just on Facebook, and it's just Tammy Carol Ketchum.
All right. Sister Rebecca?
Yeah, I actually just recently came back to Facebook like 2 days ago after a long break of afflicting my soul for a while to be with Yahweh. But you can find me on Facebook. I'm Rebecca Ann. It's Rebecca, and then my middle name ANN. And then I'm also on Instagram, Rebecca_YHWH_88. And you can follow me on both.
Thank you. Sister Traci?
Well, I'm on YouTube under Vegas Traci, Traci, and I'm also on Facebook at Traci Fox Solomon, all O's.
Thank you, sister. Go ahead, Sal.
I appreciate everybody that's here on the panel. Once again, it was a great conversation, great dialogue, and we will have a part 2, 3, 4, 5, a whole different, different parts. Bring you guys back on. But Traci, I'm gonna need you to do me a favor to send me all the Facebook pages and information for the special guest that's here, so I can post it in the description box on Blog Talk Radio.
Okay, wonderful.
Of course, the show is on iTunes in the podcast section. Just type in the search box Debate Talk for you. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Of course, we're on Blog Talk Radio and on YouTube. So we appreciate the family out there. We're going to see you guys tomorrow. Take care, and God bless.